Hi, welcome to KubeCon. My name is Robert, I'm a technologist for ITQ. And with me, I have a guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sander and I'm the CTO of Red Kubes.
So we are here in sunny yet windy Amsterdam.
Very windy.
Very windy.
My hair.
But we're here for, obviously purposes within the cloud native landscape. ITQ is a consultancy, but what it is that you guys do?
Well, we're a product company, so we developed a product that you could see as the single app you would need on Kubernetes.
A single app, one app,
One install.
and this solves all your problems.
Well, solving problems. It will solve a lot of problems, yes.
Yeah, because well, I could ask you what kind of trends do you see, but I think we both see the same trends here. There's a lot of tools, and the landscape of the CNCF is kind of exploding, and I think it's kind of getting a little bit difficult to manage. Are you seeing the same kind of challenge?
Well, that was already like what we saw years ago. Yeah? So the challenge on building on top of Kubernetes. So when I started in this Kubernetes space, I started building up Kubernetes infrastructure, and then we got that like under the knee. How do you say that in English? I don't know.
You handled it.
We handled it.
Yes.
And then we started building on top of Kubernetes, on the networking, service mesh, Ingress controllers, certificates, DNS integration. And then you notice that there's a lot of projects, a lot of open source projects that you then need to select, integrate, configure, and that's where I think the pain starts.
Yeah, and we see the same challenge with our customers. So runtime has more or less been solved. There's some pretty strong ways of just getting Kubernetes up and running, but yeah, then there's integration, there's security, there's storage, there's GitOps, there's getting the stuff into Kubernetes requires a lot of tools. And if there's one thing that we've seen the community do is build a lot of tools around, shall we say, day two operations around Kubernetes. But there's an awful lot of tools, isn't there?
There's not only a lot of tools, there's also a lot of tools that you need to select and then install, configure, integrate, probably also automate yourself. And I usually take like the analogy of Linux. So if you would say Kubernetes is the kernel, some people call Kubernetes the operating system of the cloud. But if it's, to my opinion, it's only the kernel, and then what you need to do is you need to start creating your own operating system. Because a kernel alone is not enough. So then you start selecting all of these projects and integrating them and automating them. And then what you're probably doing is building, but also then maintaining your own operating system.
Yeah.
And that's what we call now platform engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's interesting because platform engineering is kind of the hype word for the year, and it's a logical like next phase, because we've solved the runtime problem. Now we need to start actually making it do stuff, and we're not doing it for ourselves. We're not engineering for engineering's sake. We're doing it actually because people want to, consume the kinds of services we would use Kubernetes to build, right? So we've got developers who want to use Kubernetes, and we've got services we're going to put into Kubernetes. They need to be managed and life-cycled and secured, because at the end of the day, it's the business value is going to come from the apps that we build using all these tool sets. So selecting these tools, but even more importantly, integrating them, making sure that whatever it is we're using these Kubernetes clusters for, these constructs for, actually aligns with the thing we're trying to build, the thing we're trying to do with it. And this is a huge challenge because there are a lot of powerful tools, and yeah, tool selection is one problem, but then getting them to all work together, integrating them,
doing the lifecycle management of different tools.
Yeah, and this integration work, I think a lot of people kind of underestimate it right now. It's not simple to do. I mean, how long would you imagine, to go from just plain Kubernetes to actually building like a fully fledged IDP, internal developer platform? I mean, how long do you think it should take a team to build something like that?
That all depends on your requirements. So you can do it like very basic or go way advanced. So you can spend like a couple of weeks up till years building your platform. Yeah, all depending on your requirements and how far you want to go.
Yeah, and what's the typical kind of capabilities people are looking for in these kind of platforms? Say if you're a developer.
From a developer perspective, I would say insights. Yeah, so insights into my workloads, insights into my application. Am I policy compliant? Are there vulnerabilities? Are there what's happening inside of my application? Yeah? And then in a real-time perspective.
And then, I mean, if you're a platform team, you have to build a stack like this. There's also often, kind of the typical kind of enterprise stuff we need to deal with: storage management, backup, and tenanting, right? And I mean, one thing that you see with a lot of these tools, as powerful as they are coming out of this community, the usability is often, and engineers like doing, like building, but UX design, things like this are often a little bit of an afterthought. What do you think?
You mean UX perspective from the platform perspective?
Yeah, well, so if I'm a platform engineer...
If you start worrying about the UX of the platform, so for your internal platform and for your engineers, then I think you're going the wrong way, because you don't make money of a fancy UX that is only used like internally. But I think what you're tipping on is that I think, and most people here are like engineers. Yeah, they like playing with all those new technologies and trying to figure out themselves everything, how things work under the hood. And you can spend like your whole lifetime on these technologies. But then in the end, the question is, from like the business perspective, is that delivering us any value? So are we going to put a couple of engineers in a room and build our platform? And they're saying constantly, yeah, we're working on it, because it's never finished.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you just want your customers to have a smooth experience online. And if that requires technology like Kubernetes for scaling and for doing regular updates on your application real time, then Kubernetes can be a great advantage. But if you start moving up into the stack and trying to expand on Kubernetes with like a service mesh and GitOps, then you start like getting into the rabbit hole, because then the story never ends. Because there's always something new and stuff keeps on changing. So when you have implemented like Project X today, then in a couple of months there's something new, more shiny, and engineers will say, oh, we need to move that way. So it will never finish, and I think that's one of the pitfalls of this whole technology stack, because it's never done.
It's never done. So I imagine you guys have an approach that you would like to put into the market that maybe addresses some of this.
Yeah, so what we've been working on for the last, I think, already 4 years is selecting, so cherry picking projects, integrating them, automating them, and putting them together into a single suite, so a single bundle with one install. So instead of installing Harbor, Argo, Istio, Knative separately, one by one, and configuring them, integrating them, probably automating them, we already did that. And so it's one install, and then you can just say, hey, I want to use Harbor, turn it on. I want to use Knative because I want to do serverless, turn it on. And then you're done. You can start deploying workloads.
And because these are all basically open source projects, and probably the more popular open source projects by the sound of what you're adding, I mean, it doesn't, there's no, you're not wasting any expense. I mean, it's simply a question of, do I need the integration or not? And it's there. Yeah. And if you're not at that point in your journey where you're maybe not ready for a service mesh, but later you will be, it's already in there.
Yeah.
There's no additional work is needed to integrate it. It's just a question of switching it on.
Yeah. So you can decide to build and maintain your own operating system. Or you can just go to a vendor and say, give me an operating system and maintain it for me. Because that's the part that we take over. Yeah? We maintain and upgrade and do the lifecycle management of all the components within the package. And we'll just say, next week, there's a new version. You can update the version, and then you get all the update fixes and extra features.
So what if I want to bring my own favorite open source project into this?
That's still quite difficult because then I need to explain you how the open source core works. It's like an integration framework where you can plug in multiple applications. And at this point, we still decide on which applications we want to integrate because it needs to add value. It doesn't need to be like an overlapping functionality. But eventually, we're already thinking about creating a plugin option, where you can say, "Hey, I have a specific application I want to add into the platform," and then you can do it yourself. But it requires a lot of engineering effort on our side.
Yeah, but this engineering effort, the customer doesn't have to do.
That's the benefit, yeah, because you can have something in probably 10 minutes. Instead of trying to build something yourself in a couple of months and then build something that you also need to maintain yourself.
Yeah. And we talked about usability briefly just now. I mean, what does your product do around usability, about making it easy to consume?
Well, we have a web interface, and then a lot of people think, because in the web interface you can create teams or services or builds or workloads.
So there's a tenanting model already in it.
It also has a tenanting model, yeah, so you can create teams and then like a development team, and they can sign in and do their own things and have insights into their workloads and all the information they require. But it's not like a real user interface, because it's like a multi-Git interface, because the interface, the user interface, generates code that's then stored in Git and then applied to the platform.
Wow. Okay. So it's a GitOps managed.
It's completely
system.
GitOps based. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, it's only been the first day. Windy day of KubeCon. We still have the rest to go. I saw a lot of interest around your booth. So if you are at KubeCon, come look up Red Kubes. The product is called
Otomi.
Otomi.
Booth SU17.
Awesome, cool. Thank you very much for your time, Sander, and good luck for the rest of the week.
Thank you.